Hi, this is James Vincent. I'm Director of Vincent Music here in Brisbane, West End, and home piano teacher. And I also teach piano myself and compose music. And I'd like to take you through some two things today. A variety of chord progressions that are cool to use, starting sort of from a basic level, and also some ideas on improvising, particularly with those progressions, and yeah, just throw some ideas at you. So, okay, look, if you're going to use some chords, the classic chord progression is the primary triads that people learn. It's the 1, the 4, and the 5 of a key. It's fairly standard. In C major, that would be C, F, and G. Now they're all sort of blocked out, meaning that the C, the F, and the G are all played like a stack of notes, stack of thirds. So you've got C, E, G, F, A, C, G, B, D. Now you can improvise on that. It's a very sort of blocky sound. I prefer to sort of use a more open chord sound, which I'll get to in a minute. But if you understand that concept, it's a way into, particularly if you do the chords in your right hand and like a single note on the bass, you could do C, F, G, and mess around with that progression. You know, pieces tend to end, and pop songs tend to end with 5-1, or G to C in this case. So as I'm mentioning, I'm calling these numbers, just so you know, they're what we call the numbers of the scale, or the degrees of the scale. So in a C major scale, you have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Or if you number them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and back to 1 again. So as I'm calling C 1, 4, or F is 4, G is 5. And you can use this in corresponding keys. For example, if we suddenly jump to a ridiculously black key, we'd have C sharp major or D flat major. So C sharp major, C sharp would be 1, F sharp would be 4, and G sharp would be 5. And you could use the same principle for changing keys. I'm going to talk about it in numbers, and yeah, you might need to do a bit of catch up to keep up with what we're doing here. So look, that's your basic one. Another good one is sort of a classic pop one. We'll call a 6-4, 1-5. So if we're in say A minor, which is a relative of C, you might have 6, 4, 1, 5. That classic. You know, 1,000,001 soundtracks and pop songs can't be wrong with that progression. It works really well. And I guess if I was going to start improvising on that, say if we took the first one, which I guess it's so played out for me, I've heard it so many times I get fairly bored of it, but it is one you'll find in standard classical repertoire a lot, and basic functionality of pop songs as well. So if you've got your 1, 4, and 5, what you can do is, instead of playing a C major chord, C, E, G, I realise the camera angle isn't the best there, but C, E, G, you could open that up for C, G, C. So you take the bottom of the chord, the C, the top of the chord, the G. Start with those two, say with fingers 5 and 2, and take that low C and double it at the top, the octave at the top above. So you get C, G, C, or 1, 5, 1 of that particular chord. That can be great for improvising. Then you've got your 4, then you've got your 5. So I'll say to do a rough improvisation on that. we can just do it in a C major scale to keep it simple for now. Cliche, and it's a fairly open, simple left hand. Sometimes you can use the chords; they can just get quite thick. Other alternatives that you often learn in method books and I guess classical era, Mozart, Haydn, you have this close chord hand position like a C major. You could change the 4 chord to this and the 5 chord to that, so it's not moving. The notes aren't moving very far at all. And that's a process of rearranging the chords so they fit in a close hand position. So in that case, you could use something like... for example, and that is your 1 as normal, your 4, you take that F chord, put the bottom note at the bottom, top note at the bottom, I should say. You get sort of what's called a second inversion 4 chord. And then for the 5, it's a first inversion G chord, first inversion 5 chord. So it's like taking that 5 chord, taking the top 2 notes, putting them at the bottom, underneath. So rearranging the chord, a very close position. Of course you can do that down an octave too. Inspired on that, but there you go. That's a way you could improvise just on C major using those set of chords. Again, if we took that open chord idea and did it to that second one, you have the 6, the 4, the 1, and the 5, which would become the open chord. Have the A, the F, G, and again that vital third is missing. But it means you can go a lot lower without getting too thick. On top you might use an A minor natural scale, which is essentially the same notes as C major. A to A, no sharps, no flats. Also known as the Aeolian mode. So Aeolian work quite well over this progression. You could also think of it as C major if you like, but you got to be careful that what the center note, the home note, the key note is. Again, I haven't really broken down elements of how you might actually improvise the right hand. At the moment, we're just looking at the components of the chords and somewhat the scales, which I'll delve into a bit more soon. Just written down some ideas, notes I was going to talk about. What do we got? Scale. So, yeah. So, okay. Actually, I'll show you one more other thing too. You could make this left hand is making chords in a classic triad format. So you got your first, your third, and your fifth. So sometimes we can go a bit more variety in the chords. So rather than something 3 or 4, you could limit it. You could use perhaps up to 6. So this is one where we're going to use 6 chords. We're going to use every chord of the scale except the 7th, because the 7th is technically a diminished chord. It can be unwieldy to use. So we're going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, actually, if you break those down, what I could have mentioned before with the primary chords, the C, the F, the G, the 1, the 4, and the 5, is that they're all happen to be major chords, which you might be aware of, and you can hear that. Whereas the 2, 3, and 6, which we haven't used yet, all happen to be minor chords, also known as secondary chords. So you get quite a good mix of those in something what we're about to do here. The thing is, you've got to be careful with the scale. There's sort of, I guess, rules, if you like, scales, and what we'll later learn about, which are called modes, pertaining to what chord, to what mode or scale you use. Things get a bit more complex. So this is one of keeping it really simple. For a scale, it's going to use a 3-note scale on the right hand, and it's only going to use the notes 1, 2, and 5. Now I'm just going to check my video here. There we go, so we don't run out. Yep, 1, 2, and 5. So basically notes C, D, and G if you're in C major. Really simple. And it's really good to explore these over the piano. In fact, one of the elements, beginning elements of improvisation is the whole idea of less is more. So rather than using all the notes of the scale, I'm going similar to like a rainbow, where you can go to town with all the colours and kind of be a bit mishmash and random. Limiting your tones, limiting your pitches. You know, you can spend your time focusing on other things like rhythm, texture, dynamic, shape, busyness versus space. And now these 3 notes will also happen to work over those 6 chords quite nicely. Again, yeah, this may sound cliche, but this is where we're starting here. So C, D, G. Top. Quite a lot of variance just out of 3 notes. So on the left hand, while you're doing that, you could pick one of those random. I highly recommend starting with C and ending with C. Yeah, we're still recording it. Starting with C and ending with C to give it a sense of a starting point and an end. So if you start on the key, you start with say a C key, and then return to that. There's a sense of you know, coming home again. So let's sort of play around with this. You might do I realise I'm sort of banging away at that. It's quite loud. I could have used a bit more dynamic variation. But it's really cool how those 3 tones can work with all those different combos. You could even do it fairly more systematically. You could make, say, a rising triad scale, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and going back down to 5, 4, 3, 2. course, you know, once you have some more scale notes, you could make it a lot more complex. But it's a good starting point. You know, you can make some pretty good stuff, and even go off the back of a piece that's already in C major, come out of it, and just start improvising on your own with simple triad chords. So I wanted to show you that. It's the 3-note scale with left-hand triad chords. And okay, if we just move on a little bit